proposing it at this point, is that something that can be on the table?
Something we could certainly look at.
Only for sports?
For sports or for transportation for sports? I mean, I think, in the numbers you gave us last time, I thought I saw like $40,000 were for sports travel and 20,000 for clubs or.
Yeah, but
I think
there's a lot
I
more
don't
money
have
in
the numbers
clubs
in
and
front of me.
travel. Sports travel, I think is closer to $80,000 from,
I'm going off
from
the
that,
head.
so,
I
yeah,
don't
we'll
have
have
it in
to,
front of me.
but we can give you those figures.
Yeah, I had them broken out. Maybe. What I had was, the only thing I'm showing you, I recollect on transportation was our increase, our projected increase for next year is on 159,000.
Okay. But
We can
regardless.
break
I mean,
those numbers
something-
out, yeah.
That's very easy to
And
do.
those are
on
things
the
that,
breakdown of the bills
to
every time.
at least look into.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that way, if you do go to a pay to play, you try to be as quantitative as possible with,
Right.
with the parents.
Mm-hmm.
And, Steve, how often are you in contact with other districts to find out? We certainly wouldn't want to, eliminate us, like you were saying, eliminate
Right.
sport and everybody else keep theirs. Or, how often is communication flowing between the superintendents?
Superintendents,
Or ADs?
minimum monthly, ADs on a regular basis, and at a minimum monthly as well.
All the ADs have to know.
Correct.
This is a,
And that's what they feed us the information in terms of where they're going to look at in terms of reductions or, possible budget consolidations. The superintendents do have a representative superintendent that goes to the section meetings as well and the AD meetings, so we have representation there. And we do look at a common approach, so, we don't want, just a couple districts out there offering programs when other districts are dropping programs. So, we will look at, the ADs making some recommendations to districts as a whole to see where some budget savings can take place in athletics.
Remind me in terms of the mandated and non-mandated classes. We have, as a board, we voted to get the financial literacy
Mhm.
requirement for all graduates. Prior to that, there's an economics and participation in government requirement.
That's a requirement, yeah.
Those are state
Mhm.
requirements. The state didn't require the financial literacy.
No.
We added that in, but there was discussion about the relationship between the financial literacy program and the economics program, not to say that they're a similar course, but they do fit the financial requirement from the state to some degree. One course fits as well as the other, is that not correct? or no?
I don't think we could substitute any of our courses. I'd have to take a closer look at that, but I don't believe right now I could substitute anything from the Finance Academy in to offset those requirements from the state. We can take a look at that, but.
The other state requirement that we changed as a board, as I recall, is that we, as a board, accepted another requirement in terms of health
Life skills.
and life skills
Mhm.
beyond what the state mandated.
Correct.
Were there other ones that you can think of that are like those, Patty, that were board requirements that we put in at some point over the last many years? Or can you
No,
remember
no.
that? Those were the particular two that
I
came in
believe
at
those
some
are the
point.
only ones.
We're gonna try, I think it's better if we went to, using pre-K as an example, go to them now saying, would you be comfortable going to Charlotte with your kids for
Mhm.
kindergarten, instead of waiting until, March, April? I mean, parents can start thinking about it now, if they live on like Elizabeth, it's right on the boundaries of
Right.
Charlotte Avenue Union to say, would you like, you can come to, a new parent might say, you know what, I was pre-K here, they'd be more susceptible to changing.
Part of what we're looking at right now is, from a transportation perspective, is whether or not we can transport students on our AM runs. For instance, if we would locate all of our pre-K students at the neighborhood school, and could we include them in terms of transporting them on our regular runs? So we want to investigate that before we go any further on that. And there are some complications with that because, up and through December, some of the pre-K students need to be in car seats. So there needs to be more space on the buses. We're not sure we have the capacity to do that, but I've asked for that information to come to us to see if we can
But even
make
as
some
far as
changes.
like when they complete pre-K and they go to kindergarten, you might have a few parents that would say, yeah, I'd like to stay in Charlotte
Mhm.
or,
And I think as we look at those reductions, if there are some economies we can create through some options for parents, we'll certainly take a look at that. Those become complicated though. you know, is,
Yeah,
How does that differ from the issue of, do we consider what we would call redistricting? I mean, we've talked about that also.
the redistricting issue is greater, because I think if you're gonna go through redistricting, you're looking at closing the school. So the impact is much more significant than creating options and boundaries.
And the options and boundaries could be us making just boundaries, but also it could be offering options to
Right,
parents.
as Matt said, you have, you know, some overlapping boundaries where people may want to go to Charlotte instead of to Union Pleasant, or may want to go to Boston Valley instead of some schools. So, you know, you have those options. I think, you know, part of what we have to do is take a look at where our families are located at this point, and then what might make sense in terms of offering those options to students.
it could be as weird as Crown View Terrace. One house is Hamburg, one house is Frontier, right next to each other, because where the boundary goes. Where you could have a street here where one house is gonna be Union Pleasant, one house is gonna be Charlotte, if we redo boundaries, but I think you're gonna find more parents might say, you know, I don't mind going to Charlotte, or I don't mind going to Union Pleasant, or, you know, the parents can pick up, or grandparents can pick up the kids and take them to Armour, or whatever. So, hopefully we'll have some parents that wanna do that. Change the class size.
It sounds more complicated.
Well,
Quite
it's
complicated,
I start
yeah.
thinking about that, and it's like, boy.
How do you then possibly predict?
How do you, yeah, right, because then somebody's gonna change their mind, or,
They sell a house, they,
yes, yeah.
Become lopsided and
yeah,
have more
they
students
adopt
in
their
school.
kids, they
The
adopt.
the limitations essentially is the size of Charlotte and Boston.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't have the ability to have any flexibility,
Well,
because we
you
don't have
can-
the size to get more bodies under one roof.
There is some room. I mean, there's not a lot of room in either of those two schools, and Charlotte would become more crowded because of the pre-K, because of, you know, the number of pre-K classrooms we have there. But, you know, we can expand at certain grade levels given enrollment. But again, I think, you know, part of what you want to make sure is you're providing these options is that it's providing us appropriate staffing. That, you know, and it may be balancing the number of students per class, but part of what we don't want to do is get in a situation where we're creating a situation where we need to add a staff member and we can't reduce somewhere else. So it's important to make sure that we can have the,
And we've always said in years past, it was like a snake swallowing a rat, where, you know, that class was big, and it went to the next year till it went down, went out of the school, where third grade teacher, where there was 3, and then next year there was 2, because we took that teacher, maybe 4th, and, you know, went on and on, so.
right, and you can see some, couple of those bubbles every once in a while in these projections as you go through them.
For pre-K transportation, do you have, is it separate buses for the pre-K kids?
Yes.
How
AM.
many are there?
260 students approximately. We bus Monday through Thursday, and you have AM, midday, and PM runs. So you have an AM run that drops off in the morning, then you have a midday run where you have a drop-off and a pickup to take students home, then you have an end-of-the-day run. Approximately 2.5 hours of class time for each session.
And
And
that
again, it
cost,
runs Monday through Thursday, and there's a Friday that's optional, and parents can transport Friday.
and that costs us, but is aided, is that correct? The bus transportation, is that not correct?
Bus transportation is aided, are they aid for pre-K, Barb? Yeah.
So that's still a net cost to us, but
Right.
Not as much a cost.
not significant.
And definitely the optional parent driving on Friday, the
Kids don't.
enrollment,
Drops.
It's
Drops
only Monday through
significantly.
Thursday, and on Fridays, it's,
when the parents have to drive it,
It's a ghost town.
just to keep them, it drops significantly.
That's amazing.
What's a fact now?
some are dropped off at sitters, picked up at sitters, dropped off at sitters, so it's not like they're the parents' home sometimes. You know, you could have your sitter pick them up, sitter's house or at daycare, things like that.
But there's no question that the feeling, and the studies have shown over time, that having that pre-K there has been academically beneficial.
Definitely.
For
Right,
our
and we
kids.
have a
Yes.
pre-K grant too as well, that
Yeah.
goes along with that. So we have a pre-K grant that's paying a substantial portion of the cost of that program.
All my kids went through it, it's a night and day from the beginning to the end.
We'll continue to update you, provide you updates both, you know, in my weekly update as well as at the next board meeting. And I, you know, didn't earlier, and I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce Mr. Krangle. I didn't take the opportunity when you guys appointed him, but John, if you please stand, congratulations on your appointment. I know that we're looking forward to having you work in that capacity. We're certainly going to miss you in the classroom as well.
Thank you, appreciate it, looking forward to it.
For board members, is there anything else that you guys want to address before we adjourn the meeting? We have a meeting again next week.
Regular?
We also have the luncheon next week, is that
Tuesday.
Boston Valley?
Boston Valley, no.
But I've got veggies, you've got brownies, Patty's got pizza. Anybody else who wants to be coming along, wants to bring something? You're welcome to bring something, we've got things covered. You're not gonna be able to be there, you can't? No, you can't be there. Too bad, okay. Beyond that, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the meeting is
Nobody wants to
adjourned,
add?
it's now
Say opposed and want to stay.
7:35.
Diane, I'll stay and chat with you.
Joe, go to pass this along.
Yeah, pass it